Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Runnin on Scuffs. And we've got a bit of an exciting announcement. If you guys follow our social pages, you already knew this. And if you're joining us on anything other than YouTube, you also know this because we are live on multiple platforms tonight. We're live on Twitter and we are live on Facebook Messenger as well as YouTube. So for those of you on our YouTube audience, we are still there. So yeah, be sure to if you're tuning in on any platform, be sure to check us out. Let us know what you think of the show. And we've got a wonderful cast and crew here. Let's get into some introductions. I'll go first. I'm your host, Justin Seeger, reporting to you live from a lovely apartment here in Starkville, Mississippi, as I'm joined here by my fellow Texan, Mr. Zachary Bell. How you doing tonight, buddy?
Fantastic. A great weekend in Charlotte. More importantly than anything else, Denny Hamlin's dream of becoming a Cup champion is still alive. And more importantly than that, the day that Denny Hamlin wins his championship is the day this show absolutely gets a hostile takeover from me.
Very interesting. I look forward to that this evening. Mr. Loganity, how are you doing this evening, good sir?
Well, always great to be back on Running on Scuffs from high atop the Loganity Lounge. And as far as that hostile takeover goes, well, I feel like God's getting conflicting prayers, Zach. I feel like in one ear he's got me, in the other ear he's got you. But we'll see how it plays out. A lot can happen, of course, between now and Phoenix. My goodness, will it? Especially if the road was any indication. Looking forward to a great show.
We are all looking forward to a great show. And of course, as always, behind the scenes throughout the majority of the show, but we let her get a few words in here. Our producer, Peyton, here for another episode. We appreciate you being behind the scenes. How are you doing tonight?
Doing a lot better than last week. I have a bit of a cold, but that's fine. It's all fine. Other than that, I'm okay.
Sounds good. We're glad to have you here. And we're glad to have all of our viewers here. Be sure our comment section should be open. So if you're watching us, be sure to leave a comment, leave a like. If you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, go ahead and do so. And be sure to follow all of our social media accounts. Daniel Foster, a member of our team, has said, love to see all the happy faces. We're glad to be here and we're glad to be happy. It was a somber week last week, and we took care of business, but we're here and we're all at 100%. We're ready to go. And it's a good thing because, lady and gentlemen, we had a cutoff race, 2 cutoff races this past weekend at the Charlotte Roval, of all places. And we'll just go ahead and get started. We're going to go ahead and get into our race review segment. Peyton, you want to hit them with a race review there? Thank you very much. So, Zach, Logan, we had a couple of cutoff races here at the Roval. For the Xfinity Series, kind of same song, different verse, right? I mean, we've had 4 races here at the Roval that AJ Allmendinger has competed in, and 4 races at the Roval in the Xfinity Series that AJ Allmendinger has won. So pretty much same song, different verse for him, isn't that right? Zach, what were your thoughts on the Xfinity race? I know you seem to enjoy it for the most part.
I love all Xfinity Series races. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way. But we talked last week about AJ Allmendinger going to Cup Series and stuff, and we know how much I love AJ Allmendinger and seeing him win. And quite frankly, he is the best road course racer in the sport, and he continues to prove it week in and week out. So this is not a shocking result. But I think this win comes at a very pivotal point for him. He is by no means in danger coming into this round of 8 in the Xfinity Series. But it certainly at times this season has felt like he's the third of the 3 championship contenders and winning back-to-back races, albeit at a super speedway and a road course, padding those playoff points really makes his chances to get to Phoenix like feel a lot more comfortable, in my opinion. So in that regard, it's a massive win.
Yeah, it is a massive win. I think AJ Allmendinger for the last few seasons now has been one of the favorites to make it to Phoenix. And I think this year is going to be no different. Right now, he sits only behind Noah Gragson in playoff points with 22 playoff points to his name. 44 playoff points to his name, starting the round of 8. There were 4 playoff drivers that were eliminated from playoff contention after the Roval. Ryan Sieg, Daniel Hemrick, the reigning Xfinity Series champion, Riley Herbst, and Jeremy Clements as well, all were eliminated from Xfinity Series contention, meaning that the round of 8 consists of Noah Gragson, AJ Allmendinger, Ty Gibbs, Justin Allgaier, all 4 seated above the cut line right now, and then the 4 that find themselves below the cut line for Phoenix are Josh Berry, Austin Hill, Brandon Jones, and Sam Mayer. Logan, what do you think about this Xfinity Series field of 8 as we go into the round of 8 for the Xfinity Series? Anything that impressed you from the Roval, and what are your thoughts looking forward?
Well, the Roval ought to be called the Roval guest starring AJ Allmendinger at this point. So I'm hoping they'll get that changed on your guide for next year. I know that he'll be in Cup Series, but I would expect almost the same result. It's getting ridiculous. As far as the top 8 go in the Xfinity Series, I mean that's a fascinating top 8. We know that Noah Gragson is extremely hot. We know Allmendinger's out here doing the damn thing, as the kids say. Josh Berry's still very, very much in the hunt. Look, I think it's anybody's ball game. There's not anybody I look and I go, they can't win it. And that's really exciting. I think there's great parity in the Xfinity Series, and there's a certain excitement, a certain edge. You know, the slogan is that names are made here, right? And depending on how this goes, we could get a new name made. I'm very excited for this round of 8. I just do. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out. I'm excited, really, really excited.
As am I. I've said before, I think the round of 8, whether it be the Cup Series or the Xfinity Series or even the trucks, once you get it whittled down to 8 drivers, I think you really kind of get to the idea of like, hey, these guys can theoretically go out and compete for a championship if given the right opportunities. I know Brandon Jones, he's 7th on the playoff grid, but he seemed pretty confident going into the round of 8. He won at Martinsville earlier this year, so I mean, certainly not anything uncommon. We've got a guest here from Facebook, Mr. Tom Willoughby. He's going to restart a league race, but he's going to tune in until it starts. So we appreciate you having that. Good luck to you in your league race. Speaking of which, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. Mr. Loganity got himself a league race win in our league this past Friday night. So, you know, first ever career league win. It's always a special feeling. So,
Coke 600, baby. How about that? I'll be daggum. Ain't that something? Oh, look, I know that you don't believe this, Justin, but I'm telling you, Gim had something to do with it. It's not often that you and Dan make mistakes on the same lap, and I get to take advantage. It was a miracle. I'm talking about a real act of God. I'm so hyped.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I plan on it getting back to business as usual next week. But I'll let you have your moment in the spotlight here for that. Anyways, moving back to our race review before we get off track there. We also had
Tom. I love you, Tom. You're the man.
Absolutely. Going into the Cup Series review, that was a cutoff race as well, going to the round of 8. You guys see the title of our video, Win and You're In. We hear it all throughout the playoffs. We hear it getting to the playoffs, and we hear it throughout these rounds. And the driver who had the best round of 16 in the Cup Series ended up being the driver in the round of 12 who had to win to get in to the round of 8, and he was able to get it done at the Roval thanks to a little bit of fresher tires there at the end. Mr. Christopher Bell for Joe Gibbs Racing in the 20 was able to get the win at the Charlotte Roval and move on to the round of 8. Zach, give me your thoughts on Christopher Bell getting that win.
This is a championship winning win, to be quite frank. Christopher Bell, he had a really, really good, we talked about it, first round, and was really, quite frankly, poised for another good second round with a strong run at Texas. And, of course, he had tire issues, didn't finish the race there, had a hard Talladega race with some bad luck as well. Comes back this weekend in Charlotte, and the luck changes on a dime. Absolutely, he was not the fastest car, nor was he the best car at all on Sunday. But he was just good enough, just fast enough to take advantage of a little bit of luck and a little bit of strategy, and quite frankly, a cluster, a true mess there at the end, which seems to be commonplace in the Cup Series now. But going ahead into the round of 8, looking at a track like Las Vegas, where the Toyotas dominated in the spring, and Homestead, a track traditionally dominated by Toyotas as well. And Martinsville, very similar to New Hampshire, and then it's a flat oval. This round sets up particularly well for Christopher Bell. Like, he goes from entering the playoffs as he's kind of on fire, to at the end of the round at 16, we're talking, and I don't know how much I vocalized, but I remember thinking, this guy is my championship favorite. If we had to reset, we made our bracket prediction show. If we had to reset the bracket in the round of 12 and do another prediction show, Christopher Bell would have been my champion. And coming all the way up until about 5 laps to go in the Cup race on Sunday, I thought he was gone. And here we go. We're back to Bell being in the driver's seat, I think, in my opinion, to be a Championship 4 driver. Honestly, I mean, other than Chase Elliott, is there anybody we feel more comfortable than Christopher Bell? I mean, Hamlin maybe, right? That's it. This sets up so well for him, and such a clutch win, and it says a lot about him and his team, and kind of a tale of two stories at JGR overall this entire season. But yeah, a huge win.
Yeah, a really good win for Christopher Bell. I'm glad to see him get the win, because after the round of 16, I agree with you. I think he deserves to be in the championship conversation, and certainly would have been probably in my final 4 if I had to redo my bracket after the round of 16, and even may still be after the round of 12, depending on who all we have. There's going to be a lot of debate, I'm sure, between now and then for who makes it to the final 4. However, we do have 4 eliminated drivers to talk about going into this, and that's actually going to be part of our feel good segment. So before we go to the feel good segment, though, Joey Logano won stage 1, and Ross Chastain was able to get stage 2. So both of them got playoff points added to their collective totals, making the new standings. Chase Elliott starting the round of 8 on the top of the grid. Joey Logano second. Ross Chastain third. With Christopher Bell's win, it moves him up to 4th. All 4 of them are above the cut line. Ryan Blaney, William Byron, Denny Hamlin, and Chase Briscoe all find themselves in the round of 8 but below the cut line, starting off for the round of 4. And let's go ahead and get into our feel good segment, where we'll talk about the 4 drivers who got eliminated. So I foreshadowed it there. 8 drivers made it past the Charlotte Roval, and 4 drivers did not. And one of those drivers, like the Xfinity Series with Daniel Hemrick, the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion, Kyle Larson, was eliminated in the round of 12 by only 2 points behind Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe had struggled throughout the race, but was able to gain enough points on Larson and with Larson's struggles able to get past him for that final round of 8 position. Daniel Suarez was also eliminated, as well as Austin Cindric. And, of course, Alex Bowman was unfortunately due to injury because he could not compete at Talladega or the Roval. So our thoughts are still with Alex Bowman, hoping for a speedy recovery there. Larson's got to be. I posed this question to both of you, but I'll start with you first, Logan. Kyle Larson's got to be the biggest surprise of this, right? Like, it's got to be Kyle Larson not making the round of 8 that surprises us the most.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt, especially with the way most of the race went yesterday until the very end. Pardon the wrestling pun, but it's a stone cold stunner. There is no doubt about that in my mind. By the way, I do want to say I think this race proved it's time to end the Roval experiment. My God, that was a tough race to watch. It was a great cure for insomnia if you had it. But that's another question for another time. Yeah, that's without a doubt the biggest surprise. You know, we know how great Kyle Larson is. Some would say he is the best driver in this sport, as we see Kyle Busch kind of take a step back in recent years by his very lofty standards. It's a stunner, and nobody. And this is no disrespect to Chase Briscoe or SHR, but they haven't looked like a champion at all. I mean, at all. And I know we're not there yet, but the round of 8, we're knocking at the back door. And so that's very – and let's not forget Ryan Blaney kind of had to backdoor his way in due to the unfortunate injury of Kurt Busch. So, yeah, this is completely insane in some facets. Kyle Larson's had a very good year. We're not talking about it as much as we did last year because he was just owning the joint. But, yeah, that's Chase Briscoe in the round of 8, Ryan Blaney in the round of 8, Kyle Larson out. You've seen the GIFs and memes where all the math is getting fired up by the women and the men, and we're drawing on the board. That's what this is. But that's this system. You're going to have those upsets, those what moments, and that's kind of what NASCAR wants. But, yeah, I think time to end this Roval experiment, and definitely stunned that Kyle Larson doesn't make that round of 8, given because without chaos at the very end, you know, he's sitting pretty, all things considered. I mean, he was good, and then it got crazy.
Before I go on to Zach here, I want to pull up Tom's recent comment here because this is going to foreshadow into your time, Zach. How about the irony in the HMS camp, the penalty reduction for Byron indirectly leading to the elimination of Larson? You know, William Byron, with the appeal, actually received his 25 points back from the penalty that they received at Texas. And then getting those 25 points back, William Byron was less than 25 points above the cut line. So had that not happened, it would have been Byron eliminated and Larson still would have been in. So, Zach, I'm going to let you take the floor with that one.
Yeah. It's called karma. And it's a dish best served in the playoffs. You know, you can imagine, longtime listeners of anything I've ever said out of my mouth can imagine how much I disagree with the rescinding of the penalty. But it's karma. It's poetic justice. And not to mention it, Logan, you're flat out wrong about everything you said. Kyle Larson's been inconsistent most of the season. He has not shown race-winning speed most weeks. The weeks where he has shown race-winning speed, he's had to wreck his teammate who's been better than him, which is no way I want to win. And quite frankly, the Roval delivered again. Delivered an interesting finish and delivered drama and chaos that the Oval simply rarely has delivered. We cannot make a rash decision on the Roval after several great years to one middling year. After how many snoozers in a row of the Coke 600 to jump back after one good oval race. Anyways, it's karma. It's poetic justice. I'd rather face that chump William Byron than Kyle Larson, to be quite frank. But either way, Good riddance. Good riddance. And Chase Briscoe deserved his round of 8 spot. He earned it on the racetrack. He capitalized on all of his opportunities in this round. And he had as fair of a shot as anybody else did, in my opinion, to make it. And he made it. Tough W, Kyle Larson. Have a merry off season and a happy Christmas.
A merry off season and a happy Christmas. Logan, I see your face there. Would you like a minute to rebut there? Or we've got a debate segment later, but
yeah, I know. You can't tell me that Kyle Larson is less deserving of a championship than Chase Briscoe. All right, that's just, you're not going to convince me in any world. You can't tell me he's less deserving of a championship than Ryan Blaney. You're not going to convince me in any world. There's a big glaring two that I go, and I'm not a Kyle Larson guy. Like, I'm not over here drinking that Kool-Aid per se, but it's just, I mean, have you seen the two that are getting in and he's out? And yeah, I think karma might have something to do with it because Hendrick is the SEC of NASCAR apparently. But it is what it is. No, the Roval was absolutely painful to watch. It was just we might as well have been watching F1 and IndyCar. It was, the action was so little. And that's going to be that way with this car because this car is built for road courses. Because the idea was the Roval was with a car that didn't build for road courses. Let's see what happens. So the experiment needs to end. The whole Frankenstein thing is dead.
well, I'll tell you, I'm loving the energy on this. Everybody's fired up, and I am absolutely loving it. And I hope everybody watching is too. So before we get into our debate segment, because I know both of you are going to carry that into our debate segment later on, let's get a few more stories out of the way. Of course, we talked about the 4 Cup drivers who were eliminated. We've talked about the 4 Xfinity drivers who were eliminated from playoff contention. We've talked about William Byron's penalty. The points penalty was rescinded. However, the fine for the penalty was increased to $100,000, which, in my opinion, and somebody who agrees with Zach about the penalty, I think that's a load of crap. I think for him to have and that might be the
I'm doing my best Mr. H impression. Sorry.
That might be the I mean, you're going to say that the penalty was not severe enough to keep the points penalty, but you're going to say that it was bad enough to increase the fine. That makes no sense to me, and that proves that there was, in my opinion, there was a little bit of
bias
going on. Yeah, a little bias going on there. So that's my opinion. Zach, I know you agree. Anyone else is willing to disagree, but I think that's a little fishy there, to be honest.
Listen, if you want to disagree with me, you can come at me in the DMs, in the comments section, to my front door, whatever suits your boot. But you're wrong, and I will argue till I'm blue in the face. And I just, not to steal all the moment here, but NASCAR, quite frankly, is lucky that this whole malarkey that they pulled here with this appeal and everything did not affect Denny Hamlin's championship. Could you imagine if Byron's 25-point penalty and Hamlin's the one that's out by 1-2 points? And there's so many different ways NASCAR could have handled that better in the moment, which go back and watch the Texas episode to listen to all of those things. But really and truthfully, like we were not terribly far off from this affecting Denny Hamlin's championship. And that is a black mark on the entire sport.
That'd have been a tragedy.
Whatever suits your boot. That's going to be a quote. Hey, we ever start getting merch around here, Zach, we're going to put that on a T-shirt for you. So
please do.
I gotta say, I'm gonna steal that tomorrow when I record my wrestling podcast. Yes, thank you.
As long as you get fair attribution, Logan. As long as you turn those wrestling viewers into racing fans. We're going to move on a little bit, and we'll get back into a little bit of playoff drama later in our debate segment. Zach, you referred to it a little bit earlier. One exciting piece of news that we have is AJ Allmendinger is going to race full-time for Colleague in the Cup Series in 2023, driving the 16. Justin Haley is expected to stay in the 31 for Colleague, but that's a really cool move for them. I think, we talked about it in our own private time together that ultimately, I think it's just a really cool thing for NASCAR as a whole. I think it's a good thing for Colleague. I think it's a good thing for AJ Allmendinger. I think it's a good thing for NASCAR as a whole. So really cool to see him getting that opportunity to race full-time in Cup once again. Speaking of penalties, we were talking about that. Kevin Harvick was issued a penalty, was suspended for his crew chief, Rodney Childers, was suspended for 4 races for modification of the vendor-supplied body part or the deck lid. And he was penalized 100 driver and owner's points for that. SHR has filed for an appeal, which with the way the appeals court's going right now, we're actually seeing some drivers win appeals more or less. You've got Jeremy Clements, who won the appeal in the Xfinity Series, which that one was actually kind of cool to see him win. And then William Byron's more or less win in his appeal for the Texas incident. And then, we'll see what comes out of this Kevin Harvick situation. NASCAR Twitters, the media sphere for NASCAR has kind of been going crazy with that one, saying that Kevin Harvick's been very vocal about the car and that this was NASCAR's way of getting back at him for that. I don't know if I fully buy that. I don't know if I fully don't buy that, but,
It's true.
Playing
It's
a little
true.
hokey pokey is Mr. Seeger. You playing a little hokey pokey, buddy? You got one foot in, one foot out on that conspiracy theory?
I'm not a big conspiracy theorist myself, but I am.
I am.
I'll
talk about it for the conspiracy if Justin's not comfortable diving in. So, do we think it's any coincidence that the 2 drivers they chose were Martin Truex Jr. and Kevin Harvick to take back to R&D? 2 guys who ran in the mid-20s most of the day. 2 of the most outspoken drivers about this car, this crappy car, with its crappy ass parts and its crappy ass tires.
I was going to say, they're just talking about the parts. They might think the body's fine.
So look, here's the thing. In my opinion, it is no fluke that Harvick and Truex were the 2 that were randomly chosen to be taken back to R&D. Do I think Harvick cheated or whatever they have the deck lid? Yes. But is it a coincidence that Harvick's car is the one that ended up in R&D? No. If I'm Denny Hamlin, I'm clenching my cheeks, saying my prayers on my knees every night, whatever he does, on the Twitter, whatever, because there's nobody that's been more outspoken than Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick. And I would not put it past NASCAR to run past that 11 car with a finer tooth comb than everybody else.
We'll certainly see. I think it's I think it's interesting. Little comment from my mom. She was she says that it's not a coincidence either. And she and I actually talked about that over the phone when it happened, that she didn't think it was random that Truex and Harvick's cars were the
Your mom's right, Justin.
Cars.
Your mom's right.
But she very commonly is, so
most moms are right. Yours, mine, everybody's moms. All right, all the time.
God
love
the moms of America. Mama Seeger, thanks for tuning in from me to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I appreciate you backing up my opinion and backing up Justin's half opinion.
I don't know. I in my heart of hearts, I don't want to believe it, because I don't want to believe that NASCAR is single-handedly targeting these drivers who are genuinely concerned
You still
about
believe in
this.
Santa, don't you?
for,
You still
for a
believe
little
in
longer
Santa.
than most people did. Hey, I believe that too. If you're going to tell me that there's a fat guy in a red suit and a white beard that comes down my chimney, even though I don't have a chimney, I might believe you. So,
I mean, I don't think NASCAR is going to make up a penalty that isn't there. I don't think they'd go that far,
mm-hmm.
But they're going to check in extra. They're going to take a little extra time on certain cars. They're going to be the ones that go back to R&D. I guarantee you, Ross Chastain, probably the most loyal soldier to the NASCAR army, is not going to be going back to R&D. Okay, I promise you, it's going to be the 11. It's going to be the 19, the 4, the 18, maybe the 9. Chase has seemed to grow a bit of a backbone the past couple weeks. Fantastic, The guys that say accurate things about this car and accurate ways about their feelings are going to be the ones that are going to get taken back to R&D and stuff like that. Ross Chastain seems fully content to be a loyal soldier to the next gen army, and that's fine. It may win him a championship.
Well, let me ask this question because it bears coming up. What did you think of Phelps' pre-race interview, where he said some of those things were on him and some of the lack of communication, and now we're going to have weekly driver meetings and talking about the safety? To me, I thought, let me play devil's advocate since you guys want to get down the kind of proverbial NASCAR deep state rabbit hole. What do you make of the fact that, all kidding aside, Phelps seemed pretty accountable, but for a major person in a major company anyway, he was pretty accountable on the fact that he and NASCAR should have done some things differently sooner, and was pretty authentic about it. You said it yourself, you don't think they're going to go as far as pretty much making up penalties. So, is there any chance that you're looking at it wrong and you're just expecting the worst?
Here's my reaction to that. I'll tell you, because I actually do have some 2 cents to put in on that one. I want to know why it got to this point for him to admit that. Why did we have to get to a point where we have 2 drivers with concussions? We have multiple top names in the sport, almost every single one of them being former champions, or even in Denny Hamlin's case, a veteran driver who's been a Daytona 500 champion 3 times. Why do we have to have drivers like that come in, week out, saying bad things about this car to even get to this point? I get it. If there are things that they can only do in the off season and to be ready for 2023, that's fine. But at least be open, be honest about it. And it shouldn't have come 5 weeks before the end of the season. It should have come pretty much immediately after Kurt Busch had his incident at Pocono.
Or before.
Yeah.
We had heard guys talking about taking hard hits, big hits before. Don't make that face. That's true. That's a factual statement. Hits are harder in this car.
That's easy.
Guys are losing.
But that's hindsight. That's easy to say when an injury happens.
But
if I'd have known. Yeah,
okay, but what about after the Kurt Busch incident? An injury did happen there.
Yeah, I'm right. That's what I'm talking about. I'm saying that after that it becomes obvious, but until then, it's tough to. Your tone seems to be like, well, if you'd have done your job, he doesn't get hurt.
That is the tone. That is my tone.
Not fair. That is
no. It is fair because NASCAR is responsible for developing these cars.
Well, look,
NASCAR is responsible for developing the cars and safety. Their most valued asset in testing their equipment is their drivers, who they ignored, who then have no chance and no other avenue about it than to turn to the media and absolutely blast the sport. Therefore, blasting the sport is going to cause an issue, and the finer tooth inspections, which is what this whole thing originated from, is the now penalty for what we used to call actions detrimental to stock car racing. This is the equation. NASCAR ignored its drivers. This is the same thing that the RTA is talking about with TV contracts, not to go down the other detail. NASCAR is completely negligent to its 2 most important parties in making this entire sport work: the drivers and the teams. No drivers, no teams, no race, no NASCAR, no nothing. The drivers are the most valuable part of the sport. The drivers, and therefore what they bring in, the fans, and the revenue.
I have to agree with you. And Logan, I know you've said before, hindsight's 2020. We can't change everything.
That's all I'm saying is like, yeah, that's
And
easy.
we're not.
Now he can't go back and it would be great to have some accountability sooner. But we can play all day long about, well, he should have did this sooner. But I mean, that's like someone out there, if we ever get a cure for cancer, is going to say, shame you couldn't have done it before with all those millions of lives. I'm going to be glad you're doing it now because better late than never. I'm not disagreeing with you guys that there shouldn't have been more accountability and more receptiveness. All C. Phelps can do is go up there and own the fact, and I thought he did that, own the fact that, that didn't happen, and that's on me. And all I think we can ask for anybody in this life, no matter what your job or position, is accountability when you make mistakes. So I hear what you're saying, and really I agree with you, but don't you put any value, and this goes for either one of you, in the fact that he did sit up there yesterday and say, that's on me.
Until we see what comes out of that, no. Until we see, because I can sit up there all day. I can sit up anywhere all day long and say, hey, this was my fault. Shouldn't have done this. Should have done this sooner. But until we start taking true steps, and sure, you can say that the meeting that happened Saturday and Sunday, that was a step. But until we start seeing results from it, no, I'm not going to give any accountability to that. I think at that point we need to see actual steps taken to help protect these drivers before we start going, oh, they're actually starting to take an interest. We need action. We don't need words.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my feeling on that. Because like Zach said, the undeniable most important part of this sport is the drivers and the teams. And while we're never going to be able to stop wrecks from happening, we're never going to be able to completely stop everything. We should be doing everything. NASCAR as a whole should be trying to do everything they can to make the sport as safe as they can. And I think Chase Elliott said it best a few weeks ago when he said that with all this data we've had over the NASCAR's 75-year history, we should never be taking a step back as far as safety goes, and it feels like we have this year with this new car. But nonetheless, I feel like we've had a debate segment before the debate segment, so that was fun. Thank you
I love appetizers. I don't know about Zach, but I love appetizers, and then I get set for the real thing.
Hey, well, yeah. I appreciate you guys including me on this one. That was I get to pick the winner of the main debate, but it was fun to be a part of this one. So a little bit happier news. We talked about AJ Allmendinger getting a full-time Cup opportunity. Chandler Smith is going to take over the 16 in the Xfinity Series for Colleague Racing full-time. So it's cool to see him getting an opportunity.
Your boy.
He is. I'm very quickly becoming a fan of Chandler Smith. So really cool to see him getting an opportunity to run for a championship in the Xfinity Series next year, hopefully. And Haley Deegan is expected to make her Xfinity Series debut for SS Greenlight Racing in the 07 at Las Vegas. So we'll see how she can do in her Xfinity debut. And finally, to wrap up our feel-good segment here, we've got Pocono, which, oddly enough, we talk about Kurt Busch and his injury, happened at Pocono. Pocono is revamping its Victory Lane for 2023, and I looked it up a few minutes before we started airing. It looks pretty cool. It looks like I'd love to see kind of what their map layout is going to be for it, but it's supposed to have a really cool area for fans, and it's supposed to be a relatively cheap price. I think adults for Sunday was only like $75 a piece. So if you live in the Pennsylvania area or surrounding areas, and if you want to see a Pocono race, might be interesting to have the Victory Lane access. You also have access to driver intros and other things like that. So it would be kind of cool for those visiting Pocono. So I've been foreshadowing it. We've been talking about it. We just had a little miniature debate, but that was just practice, boys, because we're going to get ready for our debate segment because it is time to get scuffed up. And I hope you guys are ready for this one because we've talked about a lot that happened in the Cup race. We've talked about Larson being eliminated. We've talked about how Byron's penalty affected that. We've talked about a lot of things. Christopher Bell obviously winning to get in affected that. But how about something else? We talked about Chase Briscoe. He made it in by 2 points. How were those 2 points accumulated? On the final backstretch chicane of the race, Cole Custer blocked Austin Dillon as Chase Briscoe proceeded to heavily overdrive the chicane, and I'm surprised he even made it through to gain those 2 extra spots that he needed to advance into the round of 8 by just 2 points. So NASCAR has come out and said they are reviewing the block by Cole Custer because to see if it is going to cause a penalty for Custer. That NASCAR did say that the penalty would not affect the round of 8. My question to both of you and what you two are going to debate today is, should it? Should Cole Custer's block affect the round of 8? We all remember 2013. We remember Spingate. We remember everything that happened, getting Martin Truex Jr. that final spot in the playoffs. Ultimately, it got him removed from the playoffs, and it ended up adding Jeff Gordon, Ryan Newman. We remember that. Is this kind of along the same lines, or should this affect the round of 8 at all? In your opinion, I'm going to remove myself here, and I'm going to let you guys go at it. Zach, this week we're going to start with you.
No. It should not affect the round of 8, and here's why. I remember a bit of a similar incident in 2020 involving one team named Joe Gibbs Racing, where Eric Jones at the time, Loganity loves Eric Jones, so Eric was doing the right teammate thing, and put forth minimal effort to race Denny Hamlin, knowing that Hamlin was in a position to advance to the championship 4. And this, to me, falls much closer to that incident than does Spingate. Therefore, it should not affect the round of 8, and I will go so far as to say Custer should not be penalized at all. I would argue that Custer is just trying not to inhibit his own teammate in Chase Briscoe. And I would go so far as to say that Chase Briscoe sending it into the chicane makes it look a whole lot more dramatic than it actually was. A whole lot more dramatic than what actually happened, And there's no way that Cole Custer could have coordinated this, planned this out. There's no way. There's no way he knows the exact point situation and everything to coordinate this. It's just not possible. So, I think Cole Custer's being a loyal teammate, and if you want to penalize something like that, then I highly suggest you penalize every 1-2 teammate finish at Daytona, Talladega, and Atlanta for the rest of time. I rest my opening argument.
Well, thank you, Zachary Conquer, and I do appreciate your sentiments. But I got to disagree with you because that's what we're here to do. Look, the reality is I think it probably should affect the round of 8. Now, will it? No, we already know that, and that's fine. That's a big quagmire to get into if we do all that. But the reality is this. I believe you get paid a king's ransom, and you have these sponsors, and you have these fans. I mean, all 12 of the Cole Custer fans should be pissed off about the fact that we're gonna hold drivers up and we're gonna affect the results. We're really gonna we get mad all the time about the fact that NASCAR is trying to manufacture results. Well, what's any difference here? And I know you say, Zach, well, there's no way he could have known and yada yada yada. There's this thing called radio, and I don't know if you were dialed in on the Cole Custer scanner. I wasn't, but it wouldn't surprise me if somebody was told, hey, he's real close, so you do everything you can. And at that point, you are manufacturing and you are rigging the results. And that, yes, is there something to be said for being a good teammate? Absolutely. But when you are holding up cars and people have this idea that the race doesn't matter for non-playoff drivers, tell that to the purse. It matters. Tell that to the points. It matters. Every position you're up in the owner's points and up in the driver standings is more money for you and your team. And as one that roots for a lower funded team, it matters. Now, I know that for all you folks that root for those guys at Gibbs that can just wreck parts and put Riley Herbst in cars and everyone else and everyone else and everyone else, look, the reality is this. It should be in the rule book, I believe it is, that you have to give 100% effort. If you want to tell me he was given 100% effort, I will tell you that I went for a jog this morning. You can choose to believe me, but it's probably not true. So the reality is he didn't give 100% effort. That's his job. And yeah, I know he's being a good teammate. And there's something to be said for holding up a car. Fine, it happens. God knows we've seen Joey Logano hold up cars. But you're going too far at that point. And you're messing with other people's races, and people go, well, they're not in the playoffs, so it doesn't matter. Ryan, my good pal, my peppy little pal, can't say what I'd like to call him. We watched Chase block Harvick last year in the playoffs to help Larson win and stop Harvick from getting the win to advance. So if that's okay, then this doesn't matter for Custer. Well, but it's not okay. The rule is you bust your ass 100%. Because if we applied this to any other sport, that would be a crock. Are the Reds not supposed to compete with the Cardinals even though they were out of it in July? No. If the Bengals fall out of it, are they not going to give Baltimore everything they've got in Week 18? No. If the Dallas Cowboys listened to Zach Bell, then they would have tanked the season as soon as Dak Prescott went down. So if he can't get his own team right, why are we trusting Zach Bell to tell us here? No, you go out and you give 100% effort and you see what happens, because every week it matters, because you just never know what difference it might make at the end of the day. I rest my opening statement. Damn it, you're paid money to try. Go out and try.
Logan, NASCAR's already set the precedent. They don't penalize this. They do not penalize it without blatant and obvious command from somewhere else. That is what sets Spingate apart. That is what sets Spingate apart from everything else. And just like I said, Logan, fine. Penalize Tyler Reddick at Daytona. He pushed Austin Dillon to the win. Is pushing your teammate to the win 100%? No. And in your opinion, no. Is throwing a block for your teammate at Daytona or Talladega? That's not 100% either then. These things, that's what you're saying. You're saying that unless a driver is solely competing for themselves with no other intention, then they are therefore not giving 100%.
Zach, did you miss the part where I said, yes, there's something to be said for being a good teammate? There's a difference between Daytona at the start of the year and my season is genuinely on the line here.
No, I'm talking about Daytona, the one that right before the playoffs. Yeah, when Tyler Reddick pushed Austin Dillon. Well, but why can't Tyler... Clearly, these 5 points mattered for Tyler Reddick because this was got him eliminated in the round of 16. But he said locked onto the 3 cars bumper. You know, I just... feel like if you make a ruling here, your team NASCAR's getting to a gray area
in the field.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What?
There's a difference between pushing your driver for the win and pushing your teammate for the win. I can respect that to some extent, but then you're outright slowing up the field. There's a whole big difference there. But there is.
No, he did not slow up the field. He sat there and made a conservative entry into the corner. Thank you, Ryan. He made a conservative entry into the corner. It's a conscious awareness thing, okay? I'm sure he's aware of what his teammates' point standing is. And if he's not aware, he's at least aware that Briscoe is the only one left at SHR competing for the playoffs. And as long as he has not won a race in the round, he should be raced with care, with consideration. Something Eric Jones doesn't have because we saw him dump Austin Cindric. But I digress. Listen, you can call it a bunch of honky-tonk
like a hack right there.
Yeah, he is a hack. He can join Alex Bowman. But in my opinion, playoff drivers need to be treated with respect. into the way in which what they're competing for. There's going to be a day where you're hoping or you're thinking Eric Jones is in this spot. The shoes will be reversed,
And
you're not going to want Chase Briscoe to be the reason that Eric Jones doesn't advance to a round of 8.
No, that's a big old too sad. So there's a competitive integrity to every sport we ever watch or witness. If you're going to screw with that, I don't care who gets hurt. Richard Petty himself could get back out there in the car, and I don't want you to let him have it because it's about competitive integrity. Because the moment you can start messing with that in any way, shape, fashion, or form, then I might as well be watching pro wrestling. And by God knows, I love that. But at least it's acknowledged they're booking it for me.
Well, I wouldn't argue that it's not competitive integrity, but just simple strategy. Simple, thoughtful strategy. Is going for it on 4th down in your own territory in the NFL? That's strategy. That is strategy. That is valid strategy. This is a valid strategy. Maybe Cole Custer thought that Briscoe is going to overrun the corner and doesn't want to damage his equipment, so therefore he backed it up.
That's a heavy reach.
I mean, it's a heavy reach to say that it's
a possibility. Yeah, I suppose so.
It's a heavy reach to sit here and call it as blatantly as you seem to believe it is, because what you're saying is this is to you on the level of Spingate.
Yeah, I would say so. I wasn't happy about when Eric Jones did it. I was critical of that. I'm not. I think you get paid a boatload of money. You have sponsors. Again, Cole Custer has some fans somewhere, and those people care about how Cole Custer does. Those people care about how their driver does. I know that it's hard for you guys. I mean, Justin's getting used to it because MTJ is pooping on the bed. But it's hard for you guys to understand. Like, when I watch my underfunded team that doesn't make the playoffs, I'm still rooting very hard. I'm still rooting and caring about Ty Dillon's results. And I'm not alone in that. You guys act like, well, they made the playoffs, so nobody else matters. Well, then NASCAR should send them home if that's how this is.
There's value to them there. However, just recognize that what you're racing for is not the same as what they're racing for. There's a spot and a place for everybody on the track, from Chase Elliott to Denny Hamlin to Kyle Larson to Christopher Bell, all the way down to Cody Ware and Josh Bilicki and whoever. Okay, there's a spot for everybody, and there's a purpose and a reason that they're there for whatever reason to be on the track, whether it be a business move or whatever. But recognize that there is a time and a place where what you're doing is a much different battle than what other drivers in the playoffs are trying to accomplish. One little incident here at the Roval in a 36 race season is not going to determine anything. Okay? It's not going to determine anything different. In these owner points, quite frankly, I mean, you may think it matters for finishing, whatever 18th in the standings like Eric Jones will, and that's fantastic. But in the same breath, Chase Briscoe deserves a fair and honest shot at his championship, at his chances at a championship, and to not be screwed over by someone who, quite frankly, is not that important to the rest of the season.
You just said it, though, fair and honest. And it didn't look like Cole Custer was being fair and honest.
I mean, was Eric Jones fair and honest when he dumped Austin Cindric? No.
I don't know that he dumped Austin Cindric. You guys seem to be so sure of that because you were in the cars. I don't know that.
I mean, the tapes show what the tapes show.
No, we only have one angle. We don't know what it shows. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I need another alternative angle. That's all. That's all I'm asking. Give me one.
Yeah, I mean, Logan's reacting to the truth.
Mama Seeger agrees with me.
I would not say
rack it up.
I would not say that she's agreeing with you. I just think, as is consequence with it, as is every race. There's a race within a race. Okay? This is no different than being 3 laps down, which Eric Jones is accustomed to, and everybody else is accustomed to. This is no different than being 3 laps down and not giving the leader a hard time versus being right there, racing to stay on the lead lap. This is no different. There's a race within a race, and everybody has their own specific goals.
Well, here's my final sentence on this, because we'll see what the master decides. You know your argument's correct when you have to keep taking personal shots.
Well, this has been pretty interesting. I will say, Logan, I saw your reaction there when Zach said that Eric Jones was used to running 3 laps down, and I want to say that I have zero sympathy for you after what you just said about Truex pooping the bed. So, but
I wouldn't have any argument with you. Well,
that's fair, but I felt like there was a shot taken at me there anyway. So I want to preface this because I haven't in the last 2 episodes. We've done a debate segment every episode, but I really have just started giving quote winners to these debates in the last couple, and I want it to be known that these are not practiced beforehand. I don't have a quote winner beforehand. I sit here just like the rest of you, and I sit and I listen to both sides, and I decide who I think is the winner here. And there's one thing that in all of this, that as far as the debate topic of should Cole Custer, should that affect the round of 8, I'm going to side with Zach and I'm going to say no. But here's why. And this is where I'm surprised neither of you alluded to this. Chase Briscoe was above the cut line before. He was in on the tiebreaker. When they were tied at 0-0, Chase Briscoe was in the round of 8 on the tiebreaker. Chase Briscoe getting those 2 extra spots just solidified it. But he was already in. It wasn't Cole Custer's move did not directly influence Chase Briscoe's advancement into the round of 8. Chase Briscoe was going to be, because Kyle Larson already was below him as far as that goes. Ryan, thank you so much for commenting. NASCAR has put themselves in this situation with the playoff format set up as it is. Teams are going to help each other out to qualify and or advance. It's just how it is now. And that's true. I mean, I went to Daniel Foster saying that he sees both sides. But I don't think a non-playoff driver should be the cause of contact with a playoff driver. That's what I was saying, is that Cole Custer didn't get Briscoe in. He just ended up padding the gap there. I went to Talladega this week before last, and I was able to get a question in with Truex, and, he's not in the playoffs. And the question I asked was about Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell, about them being playoff drivers. And, he said that, even though that if he kind of understood that there was a race within a race, like Zach said there, Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell were out there racing for their own race to advance in the playoffs. And even especially at a track like Talladega, where teammate help is so important, Truex said that, if he could help them where they are, he would. That if, but the only reason that would change for him would be in the case of running for a win, because that's the only thing these non-playoff drivers have at this point. You can argue points position, finishing the standings 17th, 18th, 19th, whatever. But I mean, ultimately the prize money at the end of the year isn't going to be all that much different between 20th and 22nd, for these drivers in the points. So with that, I do think that, I'll side with Zach, and we gotta find a fun way to keep tally here. Don't worry, Logan. We'll have a fun debate for you. He did. Truex also said at the end of the day, he's out there to get the win.
So what you just did there was provide a quote out of context. Thank you very much. Appreciate you, Mama Seeger. Or a Mama Seeger t-shirt. Ain't no doubt about it. She's gonna have one.
They were running in 15th.
She's going to have one with my
okay,
face on it. I'm going to have one with her face on it. We're going
15th
and I'm
with
sure
one lap. 15th with one lap to go.
Then go try and get 14th with one lap to go.
Okay,
that's Logan, not to win.
Logan,
that's not to win.
I'll do you one better here, and even to quote, you can say you're welcome, Logan, all you want, Mama, but let me tell you this. Truex said that, but what did Truex do at Talladega? He rode around in 30th the entire race.
Well, then you ought to be ashamed to root for him.
Well, you know what? Maybe so, but that's what he did. His actions were different, and perhaps that was because of the car. Perhaps he didn't want to get in a wreck and injure himself, but the reason he didn't have any sense of urgency is because he's a non-playoff driver, and he had no reason to be up there fighting for the lead, and he knew that. He knew there was no reason to put himself in any danger, and that's the same thing the rest of these non-playoff drivers should do. Know your place, unless
He's forgotten what the lead looks like. When the hell's he been there?
I mean, New Hampshire, he was there in the lead at New Hampshire. He was there in the lead at Texas. The only reason your boy got a Southern 500 win was because of a power steering issue last I recall.
It happened. It happened.
I mean, you're talking about last time Truex saw the lead. Let's be honest here. I mean, I think we're.
That's all right. I'm still looking forward to the Mama Seeger and Me t-shirt that is no doubt coming to RunninOnScuffs.com in 2023.
Eric Jones wins one race and Logan has all this confidence. Now, that was Ryan Hill's comment there.
Oh, God, Ryan, I hate you in every universe we're ever a part of together.
Oh, well, gentlemen, it's been a great debate segment. We've had a wonderful time on this episode. But before we get to our outro, we do have an upcoming race weekend here in Las Vegas, and we do have some picks that need to be made. So we're going to move on from we appreciate everybody's comments, and we appreciate everybody who added their commentary for this debate segment. You guys make it all the more fun. So we've got an Xfinity and a Cup race, round of 8 here in Las Vegas. We're going out west one more time before we get to Phoenix. And a cookie cutter mile and a half by all by most thoughts. So Logan, you didn't win the debate, but tell you what, why don't you give me fast track it here? Xfinity and a Cup pick. Who you think is going to come away with the wins? Anybody locking their way into the championship?
Look, when it comes to the Xfinity Series, I'm going to say, no doubt about it in my mind, let's go with the Vegas man himself, Noah Gragson. He's hotter than a $2 pistol. He's the fastest thing around. When it comes to the Cup Series, I'm going to make you happy, sir, even though you think the race doesn't matter, sir. I think Martin Truex finally gets the win, and he'll get the 200th win for Joe Gibbs Racing. Fun fact, yesterday was 199 for Mr. Gibbs' coach. So I think Martin Truex is going to get it done at Vegas for you, even though you no longer deserve it with your reprehensible behavior towards me. But that's okay. I'm a forgiver. We try to be Christians here. So I'm going to say Noah Gragson and Martin Truex Jr. I'm out of here.
I appreciate your facial expressions on that, Zach. I appreciate that very much because Ryan with his picks, Josh Berry for Xfinity and Logano for Cup, and I'll tell you what, I'll use that to piggyback.
Logano, Jesus.
Well, you're not going to like me, Logan, because I'm also going with Joey Logano for the Cup. I think he's the first driver to lock himself into Phoenix. Contrary to popular belief, both Mama Seeger and I would both enjoy to see Truex get a win. So I hope you're right, Logan. But
you're still disgusting me right now.
Well, that's fine. We can talk about it later. But I think Logano's going to get it done. I think Logano's going to get the win. And as far as the Xfinity Series goes, give me Justin Allgaier. I think Noah Gragson's been carrying the Junior Motorsports banner too long for right now. I think Justin Allgaier, the veteran experience, gets it done. And both he and Joey Logano in the Cup are going to the Final Four in Phoenix. Zach, what say you? You won the debate. I'll let you close us out for picks.
All right, I'm winning the debate. I'm winning the picks. I'm going with Ty Dolla $ign Gibbs in the Xfinity Series. Always been very fast at Las Vegas. I expect nothing less. And Logan's right. Joe Gibbs Racing will win this week. But I stand by my opinions. I stand by my statements. Not the best, most impactful driver in Joe Gibbs Racing history is going to get win number 200. None other than Mr. Denny Hamlin, defending race winner, the face of the franchise, Kyle Busch, who, Martin Truex, who, that's it, folks. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you other than we'll see you in Phoenix.
Every time I try to get on Zach's side, he gives me a reason not to. He gives me a reason to leave. But
I mean, Justin, are you going to sit here and tell me that Martin Truex Jr. is some pillar of Joe Gibbs Racing? When we get back and we're 50 years from now doing this show, we're not going to be like, oh my goodness, Martin Truex and this prolific Joe Gibbs Racing career. You're still going to be talking about Furniture Row Racing.
Absolutely, I will continue. You know, I should have a 78 flag on this wall instead of a 19. But nonetheless, that's a good debate segment. In 50 years from now, are we? While we're still doing this show, is NASCAR going to be driving all electric cars by then, or are we still going to be having gas power? That'll be an interesting debate when we get there. We hope you guys are along for the ride. We hope each and every one of you are here with us in 50 years. We wish each and every one of you health and prosperity. And Peyton, why don't you hop back on here and we'll get some closing statements from you. Logan is surrounded by some smart guys tonight. We're going to bring in his better half.
First time in a long time, Logan's been surrounded by smart guys.
He's going to have his lady with him. Peyton, what say you before we close out the show? You're muted.
I'm always rooting for Ryan Blaney. So maybe he'll pull something off and lock himself into the round of 4. But probably not.
You never know. Penske's got I picked the Penske guy. Maybe I just picked the wrong one. You never know. Logan, we've given you a lot of crap tonight, but we enjoyed having you here, buddy. You have any closing statements?
I do. It's okay. I'm fine with that. You want to know why? Because Brock Lesnar just returned on Monday Night Raw. So I am okay. I'm fine. It's all good. Anywho, if Ryan Blaney gets it to the Final Four, I'm going to call him the backdoor man because that would be pretty incredible. Looking forward to a great weekend of Vegas racing. That bright light city going to save our soul and set it on fire. So other than that, look, you boys can give me all the hell you want. That's okay. Ryan can too. Dan can too. Mama Seeger's got my back though. The rest of y'all, I'll be living in that head rent free. It's not insanity. It's loganity. I love every one of you. There's nothing you can do about it. God bless you.
Well, I'll tell you, we enjoy it. Zach, why don't you hit us with a signature sign-off, buddy?
Yeah, of course. I'd like to thank my parents for supporting my racing addiction. The time and effort that everybody around each and every one of us puts into allowing us to watch and cover the sport is truly incredibly important. And I end it with this. Folks, it's Denny Hamlin's time. It's Joe Gibbs' world, and we're just living in it. The mighty coach may live on, even though he coached for that damn team in Washington.
We talk about, you talk about your parents' support. We need to get Papa Bell on here, and I think with Mama Seeger's comments and Papa Bell's comments, we could have us a pretty good show here, and especially in the comments. So, want to thank everybody for watching, especially our parents for supporting us. We appreciate everybody. Dan, we appreciate you, he's a part of our Runnin on Scuffs team. Really glad to have everybody on multiple platforms tonight. If you weren't able to catch us live, or if you want to go back and check us out, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and many, many more. Just look us up at Runnin on Scuffs. Dan, we're not arguing anymore. As much as we appreciate the love, Mama. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you.
everything that you have done to help, especially with everything a couple weekends ago with Talladega. So we appreciate all of the love and the support, and we will see you guys next week on Running on Scuffs.